And the FBI had captured this on a raid. And there was a Muslim suspect that was part of this trial, and they raided his home and they captured this document. And it's called an exploratory memorandum on a general strategic goal for the group in North America. Now this is their blueprint for cultural jihad in America. This was captured in 1991. And I'm going to read a short paragraph from here. A process of settlement of Islam in the United States is a civilizational jihad process which in all the word means, in all meanings of the word. Ikhwan is our term for the Muslim Brotherhood, must understand that their work in America is kind of a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging their miserable house by their hands and by the hands of believers, so that it is eliminated and God's religion is made victorious over all religions. Without this level of understanding, we are not up to this challenge and have prepared ourselves not yet for jihad. It is a Muslim's destiny to perform jihad and work wherever and whenever he lands until the final hour comes, and there is no escape from this destiny except for those who choose to slack. Now, for some of these people, they disagreed with the attack on 9/11 because it was premature in their view. The U.S. was not sufficiently prepared to submit yet, and that this attack on 9/11 would inadvertently wake us up. It was like this. There was an admiral, maybe they don't call him admiral. There was a military leader, a high-up military leader in the Japanese military, who thought that the attack on Pearl Harbor was a big mistake. And he made this comment that the only thing that we have done is we have wakened a sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve. Well, essentially that's what some of these jihadists thought about 9/11, is that, big mistake, we've got this plan in place that to subvert civilization, it's cultural jihad, and you go ahead and do this and they're going to wake up. So they didn't think it's a good idea. So the thrust of their approach of cultural jihad is twofold. One is to work with other revolutionary groups to undermine the traditional American heritage. And that tactic, there was an article by a gentleman named Steve Stalinsky in a May 2007 piece. It was called Islamic Left Alliance, a Growing Force. So the Islamists in the left have an alliance that is geared towards attacking the common enemy, which is the traditional Judeo-Christian Western heritage. And there's, in many instances, there's in the long run, they're going to be at each other's throat. They don't agree any more than they're not compatible in the long run any more than the Nazis and the communists were. But there is or the Nazis and the Japanese militaries in World War II. In the long run, they would have been at each other's throats. But in the short run, they had a common interest. So there is a temporary alliance of convenience. And there's, in many instances, I see a lot of material that's put out that shows evidence that the jihadi cultural jihad, the cultural jihad is succeeded. You see in our school systems, you see in the name of diversity and multiculturalism, you see kids are taught Islam. If they were teaching Christianity or Judaism, heaven forbid, that's a separation of school and state. Our church and state. I slip of the tongue, wishful thinking. But in order for us to be more tolerant of those people that we disagree with, you have classes in the schools and stuff like that where they're taught, they dress up like Muslims, and okay, it's not really being even, but because they don't allow Christians to do that, but the bigger part of the problem is not that it's unfair to another religious organization, is that the people who have infiltrated the institutions that would be looked to teach jihadism are not the Yudi Jassers of the world. They are the jihadists. So they're teaching an ideology, and they're trying to get, this is part of their plan. So they're getting into the school systems. They're getting into the court systems. When you have this mentality that, well, that our legal system should not just depend upon our founders for interpretation. You can open it up to all kinds of interpretation. Well, why not, Muslim? But why not Sharia? So there are many different instances where you can show, or this is shown that they are gaining support. And that's where while this is true, it is happening, I would caution a little bit by drawing too much of a conclusion out of this in terms of their effectiveness as a group themselves. Because if you look at the kinds of cultural jihad gains they have made, just about everyone that I've seen, and I can't think of an exception right offhand, has come about on the back of their alliance with the left in this multicultural ideology. They argue themselves as victims, and they put themselves in as part of this multicultural argument. And then if we had something where, okay, now in the Islamist view, something like homosexuality should be illegal, punishable by death. Now, if they could get something like, I'm not saying they should be, but when they get something like that enacted that the left disagrees with and would oppose them on, then I might be inclined to say, yes, they have this influence on their own terms. But right now, the influence that they have is influence that they have gained by piggybacking on the much more long-term evolutionary socialistic, thrust of ideology that has been presented, that was engaged in through going all the way back to the middle of the 19th century. So the left has a long head start in this type of thing, and they see themselves as the masters of it, and that the Islamists are the Johnny-come-lately. They're not too afraid of them. They're more worried about the Christian right, the capitalists. So they're willing to make this. They're willing to make these alliances because it's expedient, and they got bigger fish to fry in their mind. The other type of activity is that they try to get their own ideology into it, like into our school systems and our university. The Center for Middle East Studies at most universities will receive endowments from Saudi Arabia. This phenomenon is covered extensively in Walid Pharis's book, The War of Ideas. How the Middle East oil money, particularly Saudi Arabia, but Middle East oil money, has been targeted to those cultural institutions of influence. So when our experts start talking about, well, why did they do this to us? They're consulting experts who have been influenced by Saudi oil money. Oh, it's because of our foreign policy. Or, they're not going to talk about jihad. And so there's a lot of money has been going into our institutions of culture to cover up what's really going on and to get us to believe that they're simply reacting to bad policy, or they're simply reacting to imperialistic overreach, or they're simply poor and oppressed, and whatever excuse you see probably has its origin in some expert on Arab studies or Islamic studies or Middle Eastern studies in some university or some high-level think tank that's advising these figures and getting a lot of money from Saudi Arabia and places like that. So the question now is, okay, you might say, well, so what? What if, now, you may, what if they do take over? Is it really going to destroy our civilization? I mean, wasn't Islam the center of a flourishing civilization back when you had what is called the Islamic Golden Age?